Yeah, baby, let's get this party started. Let's do it.
Cruising down the back roads, windows roll low, with the music blasting, bass and that flow. Remembering the bonfire, laughing with my crew, jamming on the corner, soaking up the view. Every beat's a memory, every song's a spark, feeling so alive, yeah, out here in the dark. Cranking up the radio, rolling through life, loving making memories, music cranks high. Do you feel that freedom? Can you hear the call? Those back road memories calling to us all. The dreams are still burning, laughter is the same, sound still echo loud, can you hear that name? Life was so electric, every day the song, hearts on the highway, we to do no wrong. Chasing every sunset, world spin around, living for the moment, man, we're going down. I can feel that fire still burning in my soul, when nobody's watching, I bring my rock and roll. Those back road memories calling to us all. Calling to us all. Down the back roads.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up tonight, people? It is Sunday. It is 6/8/25, and the day after our big show we had yesterday, and it was a biggin'. I didn't think it was going to have a big turnout because there was forecasted rain. It was a new location. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. But in reality, we actually had a pretty good field out there, guys. If you check out the videos, I did some demos. I got some shots of people doing demos. I didn't get any numbers, but there were numbers to be had. And as always, Savage Sounds was there to make it all a big show. GP Car Audio, Tyler over at Big G, over at GP Car Audio, put on that show just like him and Carmel are both doing this year. So there's going to be events in both locations all year long. If you guys are in the Springfield, Missouri area, or going to be in the Springfield, Missouri area, you may want to look into those two guys. We're going to have shows pretty much about every month or so in the area. How is everybody doing tonight? And I want to hear from you guys because I don't have a whole lot to talk about on, on like wrote down, right? I usually jot down notes. I ain't got no notes. I've been so busy. Today I had to go out there. The shift linkage on my shifter and my Tahoe, it's got a cable that goes down, connects to the transmission, right? So the cable's like this, and it's got a little wire coming out of that cable. Well, that big part, the plastic part, connects to a bracket on the transmission, and then the cable comes out, connects to the little arm, and changes the gears. Well, that bracket, that little connector that connects to that arm's got a ring like this and a pin, and the ring sets on the pin. And there's supposed to be a little plastic deal inside that ring to clip it on the pin, well, that plastic thing is gone. So for the last like 4 years, I've been wrapping zip ties around both of them to keep the sucker on there. And ever so often they break off. I had to crawl up under there today, put some zip ties on it so it would work. Haven't replaced that. All I have to do is replace that cable. Not expensive. I don't want to crawl up under there and try to do the job. That's the problem. Physically, it's difficult. So I fixed that, patched that back together, got that functional. And I also did some testing in the Tahoe. I told you guys in one of my last videos that I had done a low power sweep with the dB meter on the actually in the console at the time, and that my peak was around 44 hertz. I didn't realize it was that high. I peak early at around 30 hertz, 30, 31, and then I peak again around 44, and that's the biggest peak. I ran it today, ran a sweep today, and guys, I hit a 152 even on the glass, legal position, okay, about a foot off the pod, right over there in the normal spot. On music, I hit a 152 at 44 hertz, which is the biggest number I've hit in the Tahoe ever. And I'm excited about that. So while doing that, I also paid attention to my power output for my amplifier using the basic garage watt meter, which is wired into my Tahoe. I was able to monitor that. And I got that information. So I went over to Slapz and, of course, refreshed myself on the power ratings that they have. And that amp's producing way over its power rating at the ohm load it was actually seeing during the time. But it got me to thinking, man, I wonder if after figuring everything up and looking at the ohm loads, the amp, how much power it produces at different ohm loads, I think if I wired my subs instead of one group of 1 ohm, one group wired to 1 ohm, if I wired them into 2 groups wired to 2 ohms, and then run 2 Slapz 8Ks, I think I could actually see around 8,000 watts at, clamped at while it's playing on subwoofers. And plus the amps wouldn't have to work as hard. They would be getting the easy life. They'd be running at significantly less, stress on them. So they probably wouldn't get anywhere near as hot. They get pretty hot. The one I got now gets pretty hot. It never shuts off, but it does get warm. And I mean, that's giving it a plate full of beans on a constant basis. But, it does the job. It's never shut off, but it does get pretty warm. Running 2 of them should take some of that load off and give me more power. I don't know. I was expecting Bobby B to be here tonight because Bobby B's always here tonight, but he may be working on his car. So I have tonight is going to be a question and answer session. Off the bat, if you guys have any questions about anything car audio related, I will do my best to answer those questions. In the meantime, while I wait for those questions to come in, I wanted to talk a little bit about voltage. So we were just talking about wattage, okay? And there's several sections of this. You got to understand all of them. So we'll start out at the power section. Now, there's a direct current coming into your amplifier, right? Well, that direct current and alternating current have one thing in common. Volts times amps equals watts. Simple math. This is why people want higher voltage, because if they get higher voltage, they can use less amperage and get more watts. Okay? And amperage is the hard part because it has to go through a wire, and it's a lot to go through that wire. So your wire has to be really big. Whenever you run higher voltage and the same amount of amperage, you end up getting more wattage output, or you can run higher voltage and less amperage and get the same amount of watts. Either way, higher voltage is always going to net you more power, baby. And that's a key thing whenever you're trying to do car audio. And that doesn't and amps times volts equals watts works in direct current or alternating current. So let's look at the direct current side of things. And what we're going to do, since an amplifier, in turning that voltage, that direct current, into alternating current on the other end, which is what goes to your speakers, in doing that, it actually has some inefficiencies. You can figure about 20 to 30% power is lost as heat in the amplifier as it turns power from direct current to alternating current. So while that efficiency is figured in, what we'll do is instead of calling it a 12 volt going in, we'll refer to it as 10 volts going in, allowing for that loss of efficiencies. So if you have 10 volts going in and you're wanting 1,000 watts out of it, then 10 times or 1,000 divided by 10 will be 100. So that means you're going to pull about 100 amps. Okay. 10 volts times 100 amps equals 1,000 watts. And that's going to run throughout the system. That, of course, is the maximum possible power at the very edge of what it can do on a sine wave kind of a thing. So it's not a practical number for figuring out your whole electrical system. It's just a number of what you could expect to see at the very top end of what the system is capable of in the very scenario where it's playing its maximum power. But on the other side of that, coming out of the amplifier, if we're allowed for the efficiencies, we allowed for the inefficiencies and the loss in heat by going from 10 to 12 or from 12 to 10, right? So on this end, we already killed that. So coming out of the other end, we should get the same thing. We're going to get 10 volts and 100 amps, right? But we're not, because on the other side, we're getting alternating current. So you're probably looking at, you can figure that out actually. If you were able to push 100 amps out, which you're not, you're only going to be putting out like probably 10 amps on the other side, and 90 volts or some shit like that. So your voltage will increase on the other side because it's alternating current, and your amperage will go down. And that exact number will determine how many watts it's actually pushing out. And of course, also when you factor in that you've got your subwoofer wired in as part of that circuit, the resistance that subwoofer provides is what is going to limit how much of that current can go back. And then the thing that people think about when you think about an amplifier, you think about an amplifier pulling power, but that's not what happens. What happens is the negative side of the battery is pulling power from the positive side of the battery. The amplifier is in the way. It's in the way, resisting that. And then while it's resisting that, it's also doing work. What's going on over here? Just want to let you guys know if anybody has said anything in chat today, I haven't seen it show up. So if you guys wouldn't mind, there's a few of you in the room right now. Would you go ahead and send me a message in chat so that I can make sure that the chat function is working as intended? Because right now there's no message. And usually somebody has said something, and I have run into scenarios where the chat function broke on the live stream. So I want to make sure that's not happening right now. Let me see here. Yeah, it's not showing anybody's chat right now. Let me try to restart that. I don't know. Maybe no one wants to talk to me tonight. And that's a thing. I can deal with that. So the amplifier is technically standing in the way of the power going from the positive side of your battery, i.e. alternator, to the negative side and moving from point A to point B. It's the resistive load in the middle. Some of the resistance it provides turns into heat. The rest of it turns into work or music. And let me think about this. Oh, yeah. So the amplifier, awesome. Thank you. So chat is showing up. Good. The amplifier is essentially a power inverter. If you guys know what a power inverter is a device that turns direct current into alternating current. You see them in big trucks and motorhomes and power generators, and anytime where you can plug something up to a battery and then you can plug into it like a house plug, right? That's a power inverter. Well, an amplifier is a power inverter. The only thing that's really different about the two is that an amplifier has circuitry in it to allow the incoming frequencies from your head unit to go in there and adjust or control the frequency that that alternating current is spit out at. So if it says, well, we're playing 60 hertz, then that alternating current is going to be at 60 hertz. And yes, if you have a strong enough amplifier, you can hook the speaker wires up to a skill saw and it will come on and run. Yeah, it will absolutely do that. In fact, you can put a small motor with like a little weight on it. This has been done. You can put a motor with a little weighted wheel on it, hook it up to the outputs on the speaker side, and you can hear music from the motor because it's going to spin at different speeds for different frequencies and it's going to play. You'll be able to hear music coming from that electric motor. It literally is the same thing. A lot of interesting stuff about amplifiers that are misconceptions. Like I said, amplifier doesn't pull power. The amplifier is actually stopping or slowing the power down from going from point A to point B. Subwoofer is part of that circuit. So whenever you have your power wire coming off your amplifier, going to your amplifier, right? Going from the battery to the amplifier, then you have a lead coming off the amplifier going to the subwoofer. Okay. It's part of that same circuit. And it comes back down that wire, goes back into the amplifier and back down to the battery. It's completing that circuit. That battery is sending power through the subwoofer and back to the battery again, going through the amplifier, and basically a transformer kind of a thing in there, or a reverse transformer. It is what it is. Let's see what's going on in the chat function. PSC. Oh, wow. Hold on. Where's my stupid box set? And y'all, it's still not showing up in my chat box. It is showing up on screen though, so I don't know what's going on with chat tonight. It's broken. But I can see the chat you guys can see over here on the right there. I can see that, but I can't see the chat that's off to the side where I normally can see it. So if I miss you, I can't go back to you. For some reason, chat's all messed up. Rick Ross, I'm doing good, PSC. Jason said nothing, but he did give me a test. He did a test on it, and Rick Ross said, "How's everyone? How are you tonight, sir?" Bobby B, our PSC said, "Jason and Rick Ross, how are you guys doing? What's up, man? I'm glad all of you guys are here, man, because y'all make it possible for me to do this stuff." Update on El Fuego. He's still with us. That's awesome. He's been having a lot of fluids being drained off, and they're trying to figure out where it's coming from. That sounds absolutely terrible, but also awesome at the same time. So, yeah, if you know, you know, you know. But interesting thing today. So I've been puzzling over an idea, and I want you guys' input on it. And I know Jason's got something to say because Jason is on top of his game. Here's my thing. So I was doing some testing today. First of all, I managed to get a 152 at 44 hertz in the Tahoe on the glass, on music, legal. Okay, that's cool. That's the highest SPL I've ever managed to get in the Tahoe. Now, that said, whenever I was doing this test, I was able to, using the Basehead Garage watt meter, see what my power output was. And at like 3.2 or 3.3 ohms of resistance, I was getting around 43 to 4,700 watts of power out of the 8K. Now, going over to Slapz Audio, let's see here. Do. Video. No, that's not what I wanted. Screen. Where's it at? Share screen. Okay, here we go. So going over to Slapz Audio, this is the 8K right here. This is the amplifier that I'm running. In their specs, they say that at 4 ohms, it's rated at 2600. At 2 ohms, it's rated at 4600. I was getting 4600 watts at like about 3.5 ohms, which is crazy high compared to what they actually claim. So I was actually getting significantly more power out of the amp than it's rated for. But keep this in mind. Now, what I got in my brain is if I'm running 2 of these amps and they're based at 2 ohms instead of 1 ohm, right? They're based at 2 ohms each. I'm doubling my ohm load. I'm wondering what my actual ohm load is going to be when it's playing. Right now, at 1 ohm, my actual ohm load is like 3.3. Okay. So if I double this static, the resistance ohm load to 2 ohms instead of 1, I wonder what because I'll be using 2 subs instead of 1 on a per amp. So I'm wondering what that ohm load is going to be afterwards. Basically, I'm wondering if I can get more power out of 2 amps at 2 ohms each than I am at 1 amp at 1 ohm. This is the question I am asking myself. So, in that, of course, I would like to see what you guys have to say about that. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, the chat's kind of broken, man. Hopefully, I did. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Jason said, looks like emocons are not getting through. Gotcha, bros. Um, yeah, some screwy stuff is happening with the chat window. PSC said, just in case you didn't see, this tonight will be my last podcast watching until I get out of KU Medical. All right, man. Well, I wish you very much luck on that and all the best. Jason said, I think part of that high power was because it was dynamic and not steady. Plus, your wattage may have been higher than the rated 14.4. No, my wattage was around 13. My wattage, whenever I was going full tilt boogie, was around 13.5 volts. So my voltage was actually lower than that. So yeah, these things are doing a tear banger amplifiers. Yeah, best wishes, man. Best wishes, Garrick. I hope everything goes well, brother. Just pick out what you want to eat when you wake up. That way they can have it. They can have it there ready for you, so you can go ahead and get down, man. Get some of that hospital pizza. Well, that's wonderful stuff. Let me tell you. What do y'all think about running running 2 amps at 2 ohms versus 1 amp at 1 ohm on the same 4 subs? I'm curious to know how that's going to play out. I've got good documentation on the single, so I'll be able to tell exactly what's going to happen. I mean, once a second amp is installed, I will absolutely be able to tell. Burst or peak power showing on the meter? No, that's not it either, brother. Because it's a real time power number. It's showing power real time. It's not just sticking. It shows what's constantly being generated. Uh, think of it like a voltmeter. It just sits there and changes as it comes in. And I'm just yeah. So yeah, that's not it either. It's literally making that power constantly. I mean, I got it in video. You guys can watch it. Yeah, it ain't up yet. It's uploading right now, but it'll be up later. You guys can see it on the video and make your own judgment. But the voltage was around 13 and a half volts, and I was in the low 4,000s up to the higher 4,000s. It was ranging up and down in that area, and it was ranging around 3.1 to 3.4 ohms of actual resistance or impedance. That's what the thing showed. So it's knocking it out of the park. The question is whether two of them, even though I'd be cutting the ohm, I'm making the ohm load twice as big, whether two of them would actually be louder than one. I think so. I think so. By my napkin math, my ballpark napkin math, I think I would actually be making, I'd go from around 4,600 watts of output, real output, to somewhere up around 8,000 real watts of actual output. Plus, the amps would be running at less, um, output, less stress. You were telling that another 8K would bring each amp to 1 ohm. Unfortunately, no, that's not the case. Um, right now, I'm running 4 dual 2s. And so right now, they're wired. Let me think about this. Yeah, they're wired at, and they're each wired in series to make them 4 ohms. And then uh, sub 1 and sub 2 are wired down to 2 ohms. And then sub 3 and 4 are wired down to 2 ohms. And then those two sets are going to the terminals together to create a 1 ohm load for the amplifier. If I run a second amplifier, I've got to divide those sets. So I'll have 2 ohm loads going one to each amplifier. So that's how that would work out. And as far as that would be the static ohm load, the static ohm resistance load, not the impedance load. And see, I'm wondering if 4 subs are going to create more impedance than 2 subs. I'm thinking that's going to change, and that the actual impedance is going to go down, right? So even though I'll start out at a higher ohm load static, I don't think the box rise will be as much. I think that because you won't be generating as much power, right, going back through the wires. Because what impedance comes from is whenever your subwoofer the coil is moving through the gap, back and forth, it's generating alternating current. It's giving a negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. It's swinging back and forth. It's generating power, and that power is going back into the speaker wires, back toward the amplifier, and that's what creates the impedance. Now, that's a known thing. My theory is that 2 subs are going to create less wire going back in there, or less power going back up that wire than 4. So even though I'll be starting out with a static ohm load of 2 ohms instead of 1, I think my rise will be less. So I think that the amps will actually get to produce more power, even though the ohm load will be twice as high. Does that make sense? Yeah, I see. I knew you were going to say that. So, what's up, Rob Richards? Uh, nice to see you, man. Jason says wire 2 subs to a half an ohm, and my impedance would rise to 1 ohm. Yeah, I can do a half an ohm, or I can do 2 ohms. But I don't like doing a half an ohm. I mean, yeah, I know it's a thing, but we're not even going to talk about that one. We're not going that route. We're going to stick with 1 and 2. So we're not doing the half ohm stuff. I don't like blowing up amplifiers. And extremely low ohm load wiring is guaranteed to severely shorten the life of your amplifier. Even if it's rated at that, it's going to shorten the life of the amplifier. You ask any amp repair guy, they'll tell you the large portion of the amplifier repairs that come in are because they're wired so low. That stuff wears out fast, gets hot fast. It's not what you want to do. So what I'm trying to do is stay in the nice safe zone where nothing gets blown up and I can still play it like I stole it. And that's what we're doing. But yeah, I know that's a thing. and I know it can be done. I mean, it is what it is. And I know these things, they're not rated. They are not rated. Yeah, so they're rated at 1 ohm. These are rated at 1 ohm. I'm not going to push them beyond that. Um, let's see here. One thing is though, if I'm running 2 amplifiers, I'm going to have to get one of those bass knobs that is a bass knob. I'm going to get a bass knob. I can't use the one that comes with the amp because I'll be running 2 amps. Mr. Mistal, boy, that's a good one. Mistal, yo, what up? See you doing a thing. Yes, I'm doing my thing. I am doing all the things. Doing the very best I can at doing the things that I do. Um, just got in from a sound off. I helped sponsor. Got first place in my truck class. Awesome, man. That is awesome. I didn't actually compete this last one. I was going to compete in MSD4, which is the baby class, the new guy class, which is what I always compete in. I compete just so that I can compete. I don't care about points. I don't care about championship stuff. I don't care about any of that. I compete just to kind of donate to the people that are sponsoring the show. I want to give them a little money and show my love and participate. Right. That's all. I mean, I don't care about the competition of it. Really, I don't. I want to. I'm going to try a little harder to do that, but that's not my normal jam. And so I went out there to compete, and they wanted to put me in some bracket or something. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to compete in any of those brackets. Just put me in this class, and I'll be fine. So, but there may be some people come along that's like, got their Walmart stuff and their entry level stuff, and they've never done it before, and we want them to have a class. I'm like, I don't know, man. You know what? There's some shows where you pay a fee to sit out and demo all day. Set that up for me. I'll do that. You know what I'm saying? I'll do that. That'll be fine. I'll just sit out there and I'll demo. I'll pay you to demo. Um, sometimes there's demo competitions and stuff like that. I'd love to do that. I don't know, man. Just yeah. Um, let's see here. I'm doing the thing. Um, oh man, always appreciate the love. He said. Feel you. I'm the same way. Yeah, dude. I just ain't studying it, man. You know, I get a little bit of excitement out of seeing some numbers pop up on the thing, but it just doesn't. It's not all encompassing. It doesn't grab my huevos. You know what I'm saying? And make me want to go and do stuff, push things to the maximum limit, and try to get that last little bit. That's just not. I just can't do that. Besides the fact that, I'm a sponsored setup, I'm out here to show off gear. I'm not out here to blow shit up. I don't have, 5Gs in the bank to go, hey, I'll just buy another one of them that I just blew up. Oh, well, I just blew that up. I'll just buy a couple more subs because I just cooked the voice calls. That's not me. And so I don't need to push that hard. That said, I do want to make more power because every bass head wants more power. That's just the thing, I just and I put it on there to see what the numbers are, just because I want to know where am I at compared to some of these other guys. And I'm pretty blasted loud, but I'm thinking that running 2 amplifiers is going to be a good idea, even going to 2 ohms. And so you skipped around my question, Jason. You're like, oh, run half an ohm, get rise, it'll all be good. The question was whether or not I could actually make more power with 2 amplifiers wired at 2 ohms than one amplifier wired at 1 ohm. That's the question. Mista said, "Yep, I'm banging on a budget too." I think everybody's banging on a budget. The question is, how big is your budget? Uh, and right now, my income is like low. You know, I mean, I don't bring in a G in a month, right? I don't bring in $1,000 a month. It's less than that. That said, the money that I do bring in comes directly from what you guys see. So there's that. Some months I bring in a little more than that. Just depends, but I average a little less than that. I'd say some of these big YouTubers are, they're making a lot of money, but or they're working a job. I don't have a job because I'm freaking disabled. Two 8Ks wired to 2 ohms, but rising to 4 ohms almost doesn't seem worth it. See, but does it? That's the question. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Think about it like, I mean, so the other part of that question is if 4 subs are backseating enough power to create a 3.3 ohm dynamic impedance, right? Would cutting it to 2 subs actually decrease the amount of impedance? So the rise that goes from 1 ohm to 3.3, would that get reduced to like going from maybe to 2 to 3.3? See what I'm saying? So maybe reduce a whole ohm of rise because I'm cutting out 2 speakers. In that case, both amps could theoretically be seeing an impedance of 3.3. And if that's the case, then both amps would be producing between 43 and 4,700 watts. And I would go from 43 to 4,700 watts to 8,000, maybe a little more watts, even doubling the impedance load or the resistive load at the beginning. Something to think about, man. There's several different things that I'm not sure about that I'm gonna have to dig in and learn. Um, it's all about expanding your mind. You can't just live on stagnant information and go like that. You got to think about things and put your brain together. You know, in order to grow, in order to move forward, you have to have a deeper understanding of everything. And so I'm always about learning more. And sometimes the best way to do it is to brainstorm with some buddies, and they have some little bits of information. Somebody may have actually done this before and can tell and knows whether or not you actually see more power or whether damn on paper. Okay, let's put it this way: on paper, normally an 8,000 watt amp at 1 ohm is going to be a 4,000 watt amp at 4 ohms or at 2 ohms, and then a 2,000 watt amp at 4 ohms. Okay, so cutting it in half would cut it in half, and that means 2 would cut it in half would equal the same as the 1, right? On paper, that's how it would work out. In reality, most amps, well, no, I won't say that. In reality, is amps don't work that way. They can make any range of power depending on some of the amps with certain types of power supplies can actually make nearly the same amount of power on 1 or 2 ohms. In that case, 2 of them would give you twice as much power, even if the ohm load was higher, right? So there's all kinds of things in play here. This particular amp produces a lot of power at higher ohm loads than it should. Okay, by the normal math, at 2 ohms you should be making half as much power, so 4,000 watts. Or excuse me, 2 ohms, 4,000. Yes, that's correct. Um, and this amp claims at 2 ohms it makes 4,600 watts. Um, and it actually makes more than that. So, and by the same note, at 4 ohms, you should be making 2,000 watts, right? Well, this amp claims that it's making 2,600 watts at 2 ohms. And somewhere between 2 and 4, it's actually making about 43 to 4,700 watts. It's actually making a whole lot more power than it's rated. And it's rated higher than that normal chop in half rating. It's very interesting. Mr. said, I'm wired at 0.5, but at 0.7 or what? But at 0.7 or 1 ohm with box rise. Gotcha. Subs or D2s. Yeah, I got D2s as well, 4 D2s. Jason said, I'm not experienced enough to know how really high powered systems vary in impedance rise. It's an interesting thought, though. I mean, that's what I'm trying to bring out is the thought process. Science, bro. I'm glad it ain't rocket. Hey, baby, rockets need love too. Look at those new sundown subs. Rob Richards said when I went to get my second Big Boss 8K and 415 fourth, I went from 154.4 to 157.3. It was a big difference. I was sure hoping to be closer to that 160 though. That's a 4 dB gain. That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, actually, my initial thoughts was that I would go from a 152 to maybe a 154, hopeful, maybe a 155, right? So if I could actually gain 4 dB, that'd give me a 56. That'd be a lot. But again, I digress. Did you go from 1 ohm to 2 ohm? This is for Rob Richards. When you did that, did you go from 1 ohm to 2 ohms, or did you cut it in half and do the half ohm thing? Rupert Riley said, why some guys' bass sounds so powerful and mine is not. They have smaller amp and the bass sounds so powerful. I'm running 8,000 watts tar amps and it don't sound so powerful. Box. It's probably a box, man. And the equation of bass, the box is, and I say the box, that also means the vehicle. Okay, the cabin of the vehicle where the box is playing into, all that. When I say the box, I mean the whole package. The box is 75% of everything. The other 25% is power. So batteries, amplifiers, wiring, all that stuff. The box is 75%, and maybe the box maybe even higher than that. You take the average guy that can do like a 165 or a 170 or something on like 50,000 watts, right? And you put a 2,000 watt amplifier on his build, he'll still do like a 155 or a 158, or because the box is so good that it just produces bass, even with a very small amount of power. The box is 75% of the build. Jason said, I'm looking at your older videos. It seems those subs have a 2 times rise. I assume at a higher power. What's cool is getting hotter. They would keep you at 2 times or a bit higher. Yeah. Yeah, from what I'm seeing, dude. I mean, and like I said, you got to remember that when you're looking at impedance rise, it's not a roadblock. It's more like traffic going the wrong direction. Whereas resistance is a roadblock. That's what, when you measure the sub and sitting there with no power on it, and you get that ohm load, that's how much resistance is created by the coil on that sub. Okay, when you're trying to read through it, it creates resistance because it's creating a magnetic field. That's resistance. But as soon as that sub starts moving, you're not reading resistance anymore. You're reading impedance. And that is directly power going back up the positive wire. So as your amp's trying to send power down that positive wire to that coil, the sub moving back and forth is generating power that it's stopping it. It's impeding it. And whenever you wire 4 subs together into 2 leads and run into 1 amplifier, you've got 4 generators. Okay. They're all generating power going back down that positive line into that amplifier. So the question is, will the impedance be cut in half since now there's only 2 generators? And will that end up netting less impedance on each amplifier, so that each amplifier will be operating at a lower impedance load, and therefore able to put out more power than it would if it were that same 3 ohms or whatever. It's like I said, it's a really interesting thought process, and I'm trying to beat my way through it and figure it out. Good times, man. You know. But here's the nuts and bolts of this, though. Once I install a second amplifier, I will be able to answer all these questions, because I will literally be able to tell you exactly what's happening. I won't be able to dyno both amps at the same time, but I won't need to, because I'll be able to read the 1 amp and I'll be able to say, whoa, that impedance is a whole lot lower than it was before. And we'll have our answer right there. That'll answer that question. If the impedance is lower on 2 subs than it was on 4, we have the answer to that question. I'll also be able to tell how much power that amplifier is producing. I'll only be able to tell me half of the system, but it'll be able to tell me what it's actually putting out. And if it's still putting out similar power to what it is now at 2 ohms instead of 1, or something like that, I'll be able to answer all these questions. I just need to get the other Slapz 8K in to test it. And in case you're wondering, I'm already working on that. Thank you. Already working on it. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be some good stuff. Good knowledge, guys. Because no matter how many amps or how many subs you're doing in a system, having this knowledge is beneficial, because it helps you understand what changes whenever you change things. We all know about static ohm loads. Okay, that's been done. We know how that works. You cut it in half, you get more power. But you're also putting a lot more stress on that amplifier. If I can run 2 amplifiers and get a similar result, that's incredible. I can test the ohm load with a multimeter, but that's only static ohm load. That's not the impedance. Okay, it's totally different. Impedance is totally different. The static ohm load, yes, you can test that with the meter, and it'll tell you how much resistance there is. But as soon as that speaker starts moving, it becomes a generator. And once it becomes a generator, it sends power backwards through the line that stops the power coming from the amplifier and impedes it. So it's a different thing. It's not the same thing. However, my Basehead Garage watt meter does have the ability to tell me what the impedance is while it's playing. So I can find that information out. Jason said, Rupert, the subs, amp, enclosure, and vehicle are all affect the way it sounds. Yep. Some of the older model Terramps don't sound so good. Okay. Also, what enclosure type do you have? Did you experiment with the tune? Good questions and good information. Jason's a solid cat, man. He knows his stuff. Has anybody got any questions for me tonight? I'm going to let you guys talk for a minute. I'm going to let y'all talk. Y'all just sitting there and just not saying nothing. Let's go back over here. I want to show y'all some stuff. Okay. Jason said multimeter test with DC voltage. It can be fixed resistance. Hang on a second, Michael. Um, DC resistance. Okay, multimeter test with a DC voltage. It can be a fixed resistance. Music is AC voltage, yes, and the resistance changes based on frequency. That's good enough. Um, Michael, what is the best way to contact? You tried Facebook. Um, Facebook is probably my best way to contact me. Um, did you try to? All right, hang on a second. I don't see. Uh, hang on. Michael Smith. Let's see. I don't see any. I don't see anything from you in here. You probably. Oh, I know what you did. You're probably using Car Audio Enthusiast. Let me go check that one. I don't check the Car Audio Enthusiast Messenger very much because I get a lot of hot garbage on that messenger. A lot of scammers and scammers and strippers and crap try to get in contact with me over there. Ah, I see you on here, man. Um, yeah, okay. Um, hang on a second. I will. I see you on the CAE Messenger. I will. Um, uh, I'll talk to you on there um, after the show. So stick around. Um, but yeah, I hardly ever use that thing because there's just so much crap over there. It's terrible, terrible. Um, oh, you found me? Okay, okay. Uh, yeah, good deal. It's like Jen Korea is in the house. I can't see anything you guys are saying. If you actually had a comment, I see there's a okay. You sending me a daiquiri. It looks like. It looks like the little emocon's working. The chat is all screwed up tonight, guys, and I apologize for the chaos. Um, I do apologize for the chaos. I hope y'all at least got some stuff in your brain tonight, and you learned a little bit. Maybe I planted some seeds in your mind so that you can learn more, and we can educate each other. We can learn together because this is an interesting community, and we are writing the book. You know, a lot of times textbooks give you the accumulation of knowledge that people have put together over the years. Well, there's the textbook for car audio, crazy car audio stuff. We're writing that right now. We're creating the history that one day people will look back to to learn. We are writing that book right now. We're also writing the book on AI. We're writing the book on a whole lot of stuff that's really growing and getting big right now. So, it's an interesting time to be alive. And I'm glad I have good friends and you guys to hang out with. We can learn together. We can explore these things together, and we can write this book together. You guys hit me up on my YouTube page. You can hit me up on Facebook, my personal page. Not hard to find. You can hit me up on if you send me messages on my Facebook Car Audio Enthusiast page. I'm on the Messenger. I'm almost never going to get those because I don't look at it. There's so much garbage there. But you can comment on videos, and that's one way because I read every single video comment. You comment on videos, I will see that every time. I read every single comment and I will respond to most of them. Depends on what it is. If it's like, hey, that's cool, I may just say, cool, thank you. But, if you ask me a question, I'll do my best to answer it. As long as it's something that I can do. Uh, Writing it over. Born Joker said, I don't know about writing it. Some of us can't even read it. Fair, man. You don't have to be able to do that. You just got to be able to put it out there. Somebody will record it for you. There's getting to be a lot of people that have trouble writing anymore. Writing is not something people do anymore. I mean, think about it. I still take down notes on a piece of paper, but I was born in the 1970s, so there's that. People today just don't have any reason to use paper and pencil for anything. It's kind of sketch and kind of weird, man. It's like cash. You could go your whole life without ever touching a single coin or a single bill now. You can never touch a piece of money, and you could do your whole life and not ever have touched or seen a piece of money. It's not necessary anymore. It's an interesting time that we live in. Jason said, Rupert, sometimes you have to experiment with lots of things to figure out what sounds best. It takes time and money. A shortcut is to ask pros and copy their setups. Absolutely. If the guy's system that you like sounds good, do what he did. That's how you do it. If you're either going to get someone else to help you design something, or just do what they did. If you're starting off with, if you've got a setup, like say for instance, you got an A-Trend or whatever box off of Amazon, and you put a couple of decent 12s in it, and you put 1,000 watts on it, and it sounds like hot garbage. So there's lots of reasons why that can sound like 1,000 watts is fine for a low-powered system. You can get a whole lot of bass out of that. So it's not necessarily your power, although it may be your power delivery, getting the power to that amplifier. It's probably going to be the box, though, honestly. Is if you put a crappy pair of 12s in a really good box and put a little bit of power on them and give that amplifier, you're going to get some shit out of it. It's going to do things. Whereas you can put a whole bunch of nice gear and all wired up well and put the subs in the wrong size box that's tuned wrong, and it's going to sound like hot shit. The box makes a big difference, man. It really does. Rick Ross said later, yeah, gotta go, Jason. Well, have a good night, Jason. Jason said, if Slapz had a 2-ohm optimized amp, I'd be in business. LOL. Yeah. I think I'm hopeful that this is going to work out. We're going to try it. If they're down with it, we're going to try it. I think it'll be fun to learn and to grow. Do something different. Rick Ross said later, Jason, and Born Joker said, I like 2 ohms if it's ported. Fine. Well, I'm definitely ported. I'm ported, walled, and all the good stuff, man. Anyway, guys, if that's all the questions, we're going to book out of here. And y'all have a wonderful night. Be sure to slap that like down there and hit that subscribe button, because we're always talking, always learning, and always growing. That's the whole point, is we always make mistakes, fix them, and learn from them. Anyway, guys, y'all have a great night.
Yeah. Street, slamming it to the ground. Big subwoofers are getting loud. You can feel the booming sound. Getting ready to go. Got it shined up for the show. Hours charging, amps are amping, gonna let the woofers blow. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one goes, and another one goes, and another one bites the dust. We got more at home. Another one bites the dust. Wires are glowing and the amp is smoking. Subs are cherry red. me keep jamming, gotta keep the bass slamming, gonna go hard till they're dead. Full power, gotta let it go. 20 hertz and floating air. Sparks are flying, voice cords are frying, and the smoke is in the air. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one goes, and another one goes, and another one bites the dust. Hey, we got more at home. Another one bites the dust.